Good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time this presentation meets you. I hope that you're able to enjoy it. This is Dr. Latasha McElwain, and today I am bringing a presentation to you with some research regarding burnout and overcoming the burnout, of course. So, a lot of times, what we experience is individuals definitely being in scenarios where they are experiencing burnout and they don't know how to overcome burnout. So, in this presentation, these slides, we're just going to talk a little bit about individuals dealing with burnout. Of course, in the human services field, we do know how important it is to work with individuals due to the fact that burnout is such a occupational hazard for many counselors and social workers. We have to be mindful of what's going on in our life and what's going on across the board for us. All right, so to move right along, we are going to ensure that we are covering the bases here as far as making sure that we are talking about burnout from all angles. All right. So, first things first, what is burnout? So, burnout is an occupational phenomena resulting from chronic workplace stress. Burnout can also be in your personal life as well, but a lot of times we speak about it in the terms of occupational because a lot of times when it gets to that point, individuals are pretty much done with the occupation and they just, either need to be rejuvenated or they're really going through a lot of stress and they're not going to be able to come back from it. So, when we're talking about burnout, we want to make sure that we're coming up with some things again to really focus on being able to combat it, being able to overcome it, and being able to figure out what we can do for ourselves. Burnout can be considered a state of emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion due to the prolonged and repeated stress. So, when we're dealing with a lot of things, going to work every day and things of that nature in our careers and in our jobs, in our occupations, we are dealing with the same concerns that might be emotional, mental, and physical. We're dealing with it on a daily basis, which will, get us to a point of exhaustion. Okay, burnouts are accompanied by decreased motivation, lower performance, and negative attitude. So, a lot of times when individuals are experiencing a burnout, you will notice it immediately and you will see it. I've been in several positions that I can actually say that I've been around individuals that were definitely burnt out. And my goal was to not allow what they have going on to affect me so that I can stay away from being burnt out. So, yeah, that can happen. According to the American Psychological Association Dictionary of Psychology, burnout is defined as a physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion accompanied by decreased motivation, lower performance, and negative attitude towards oneself and others. So individuals, they struggle a lot when we're talking about, what burnout is and what exhaustion is and everything else. It's not healthy for anyone dealing with burnout. So moving right along, some of the signs of burnout: fatigue, just being tired. And I would say, that fatigue is the fact that you're tired all the time. A major symptom of burnout, it can be, you can definitely understand that it affects your entire life. So when we're talking about major symptoms, we'll talk about some symptoms, but it's going to be something that's going to be, you're going to feel the effects in different parts of your life. And sometimes you'll feel effects over your entire life. And that's kind of how a lot of times when we're thinking about it, when we're burnt out, I tell people when burnout starts, you might feel it, yeah, only here. But by the time we get to full burnout, oh my goodness, we feel it in every aspect of our life when it comes to doing the things that we have to do. So you might feel sleepy all the time, find yourself definitely simple tasks that you normally do takes longer to complete it. You feel apathetic and dissatisfied with your with your work. um Everyone has days when they just don't want to get out of bed and go to work, but normally when it comes to signs of burnout, it is more persistent. You start to feel it more often, and it really becomes a problem because you just kind of don't want to do anything at all. Other signs of burnout could be individuals that have headaches, individuals that definitely have those tension headaches. I think even if you were to look up tension headache, you'll see where tension headaches are usually um, uh, determined to be in terms of how your head is shaped. And you get those tension headaches. There are common side effects of burnout telling you, yes, something is going on. Change in your diet. So you start eating possibly sweets and different things like that. Changing your sleeping habits or your patterns of sleeping. You are not getting sleep sometimes. Burnout can really put you in a point where you're sleeping too much, or it can put you on the other end of the spectrum where you're not getting enough sleep because you can't go to bed at night. So I always tell people, sometimes we talk about not getting enough sleep, kind of anxiety is building in there. When we're talking about depression, sometimes the depression is building in there. Sometimes it could be a little bit of both. And sometimes the anxiety might be a lot of sleep because you're just trying to stay away from it, period. And it's driving you. So again, anxiety and depression kind of mixes in with that. So, but like I said, it's different for everyone. Pretty much, humans, we're a creature of habit. So when we experience changes in our habits of sleeping, eating, and different things of that nature, it often is signs that things are going on, something isn't amiss at that point. So when we're thinking about is burnout the same as depression, because I just mentioned depression and anxiety, we think about it. So burnout can often resemble the symptoms of a more serious medical condition, different serious medical conditions, and they can include mental health, and they all can be mental health related. It could be mood disorder, depression, anxiety, a whole slew of things. And a lot of us do know that, even some of our medical conditions, we could definitely, have some things going on that's just taking the wind out of us. So we got to be mindful of things like that. Other signs of burnout and depression can mirror each other. Depression is of course, diagnosable mental health condition, whereas burnout is not diagnosed. It's not a diagnosable mental health condition that we really attest to when we're talking about having a diagnosis. Symptoms of burnout include exhaustion, high depletion. I'm sorry, energy depletion, a high level of energy depletion, insomnia, anger, irritability, sadness, negativity. Definitely, people become more cynical. There is a whole lot of emotional disturbances that's happening from the job aspect a lot of times. There's a reduction in the productivity at work. That happens as well. So, what causes burnout and how to notice burnout and cope with burnout? So, basically, burnout, it happens when your work life balance gets out of sync. And that's truly how you have to look at things for the most part. Having the feelings pretty much that you just perpetuating and just really being in a perpetual situation where exhaustion is there, annoyance is there, you're feeling unaccomplished, you're feeling unappreciated. There's a lot of stuff that's happening, and you're just like, what is going on? So, there's a lot happening there when we say these different things. There are 6 areas that can lead to burnout, and how we can think about it when we're talking about attempting to remedy in each one of them. When we're talking about our workload, so in the human services field, of course, we know that there are heavy workloads in the human services field. So when you have that heavy workload, you definitely want to make sure that your workload is matching your capacity. So, you can effectively get so you can effectively get your work done and then have the opportunity to rest, recover, and then find time for professional growth and development. So this would look like making sure that you keep a balance on your workload, and then talking with your supervisors and talking with your managers and different people that can assist you so that you could feel supported in what you're doing, and see if and I tell people sometimes, depending on what's going on, that might not be the job for you if the loads are too much to handle. And you might want to consider some things. So I always tell individuals, we talk about workload. A lot of time we're talking about the caseloads. But you definitely want to make sure that you're in a position that you're doing all on your end also, to make sure that you can handle your workload and that you can work through the different tasks that you have in your job, so you can effectively get your job done, feel good about getting the job done. You can also feel good that you are having the opportunity to make sure that you're resting and recovering, and then again you have time for professional growth and development. That's sometimes where people get lost, where you're not really doing anything additional to maintain this professional growth and development that is truly needed. Especially when it talks about growing our careers and things like that. We want to be, I like to leave every position I've been in, I like to leave that position with a whole wealth of knowledge than what I started that position with. So when we're thinking about some of the chronic feelings that we have, we feel overloaded. We feel that these opportunities to restore balance don't exist. So we have to figure out what that means. A lot of times in human services, you will come across situations where we are working with supervisors, clinical supervisors, and individuals that would be able to assist us further and make sure that we're not just, really getting to a point where we're totally out of sorts when it comes to our career and comes to what we're doing as far as being able to service clients. And of course, being in the counseling field, counseling and social work, you have to basically be kind of not the top. I'm not going to say the top of your game, but you have to be able to notice when you're dealing with burnout, because your clients will notice it, other people will notice it, and you have to be able to work with yourself and work within the guidelines of making sure if you feel like you're impaired, you need to take a break. Okay. All right. So moving right along, talking still about, what causes burnout and how to notice burnout and cope with burnout is to address the stress of your workload. Basically assess how well you're doing in these key areas. The key areas you want to think about is planning your workload, prioritizing your work, delegating tasks, and saying no and letting go of perfectionism. So saying yes and no, I always tell individuals you can't do everything, and you shouldn't be at a point where that's what you're expected is to do everything. So another thing you want to talk about is you want to be mindful of is try to make progress with the time management skills. In the time management skills area, that's a big thing. Putting some time frames on activities and things of that nature and things that need to get done. I like to tell people, if you know it's going to take you about an hour to get it done, or 45 minutes, an hour to get it done, then go ahead and give yourself some time, take a break, get some leeway, and go to the next item on the agenda. So you want to be able to work through some things. You definitely want to you definitely want to make sure that you have some control. You don't want to feel like you're in the lack of control. That's a whole nother situation when you feel like have a lack of control. You feel like you lack autonomy. You don't have access to the access to the resources, and when decisions are being made, a decision that's going to pretty much impact your professional life can also take a toll on your well-being. So we want to be mindful of that. Also, if we find ourselves in a situation where we're feeling out of control, step back, ask yourself, what exactly is causing me to feel this way? What is going on? And I always tell individuals, I always like to come to a solution. I like to definitely deal with solution focused activities and, brief solution focused. So I like to tell people we want to recognize there's a problem. We want to talk about the options and what we can do. And then we want to move right on to kind of executing a plan, or coming up with a plan and then executing the plan based on the options that will work best for us, and coming up with a pretty good decision on where we're going next. Okay. Next, I'm looking at, the reward. So basically, extrinsic, excuse me, extrinsic, I can't say the word today. Well, anyway, the rewards, um, rewards on the outside and the rewards on the inside. Basically, we want to be able to look at those rewards for the job, and when they don't match the amount of effort and time we're putting in them, then we have to start looking at things and feeling more along the guidelines of what investment is. The investment, is it an investment? Is it worth it? Will it pay off? What are we doing? So, like I always tell people, okay, if you go into, I tell all my clinicians this, and I tell people just in general, if you're going into a work environment and you feel like there is, um, as far as the reward, the payoff, the reward and the payoff. If it's an investment in yourself and doing some other things that take you a little bit outside of your realm and give you more experience, might be worth the time. Okay. If it's something that's really just putting you behind the eight ball and you feel like you're not gaining anything from it, then you definitely want to check out how you are going, making sure that it is a reward for you in the end. Because if it's nothing, then you have to really say, okay, you have to determine what you want things to look like, and determine exactly what you need to feel appropriately, properly and appreciated. So you want to figure out what makes you feel like you want to continue to do this job. We're talking about the experiment. So experiment to see which rewards would make you feel like what you're doing is worth it. You know what I mean? A lot of times I hear people say, "Oh, I want to work with children." Well, yes, you want to work with children, but again, like we always talk about in human services field, we don't want kids to be fighting us and we have to go to work to literally fight. So again, we have to utilize our interpersonal skills and really be able to work with individuals, again, without putting our hands on them at any cost whatsoever. We want to make sure that we are in a position where, like I tell people all the time, talk is cheap, but talk will keep you going versus having to get physical in any scenario situation. So I always tell people, just be mindful of that. And you want to walk into many scenarios, especially when you're working with adolescents and children. You want to walk into those scenarios with an idea of making sure that you are doing your part, and that you are checking yourself and making sure that you're in a good place. Because yes, if I had to go to work every day and I had to fight every single day, I would be burnt out too. That's just the nature of the job sometimes, depending on what job you have. One of the reasons why I came out of law enforcement. But not that you'll fight every day, but it's a potential. It's got potential that you might fight every day. It's very likely that you might be in a fight or a shootout or something, or running behind someone in a hot pursuit every day. So that wasn't my thing, so I had to move on. But when we're talking about also experiment with different rewards and see what it's all about, looking at the rewards within the current working environment. Some people feel fulfillment from working with children. Some people feel fulfillment with talking to people. Some people feel fulfillment in being the best customer service person they can be and always showing up. So sometimes you have to think about those rewards that are internal and external. And those internal rewards and external rewards, they have to be worth it for you. So your comp time. Some people, like to have that time off because they worked over, so they're going to take that time off. Some people like to have face-to-face contact with their boss. Some people don't like to have face-to-face contact with their boss. Positive feedback. Some people want that positive feedback. Doesn't matter who it's coming from. Sometimes it's just coming from the people that you work with. Like me, I tell people, man, I love it when my clients compliment me. My coworkers compliment me. Nice, but not something I need. I like when my clients compliment me and tell me how much of a great, clinician I am and how helpful I was to them. I love that because that tells me that, there are people out there in the world that need help and want that help. And the fact that I can give it to them and give it to them straight, and they respect that and they honor that, because that's the person I am. So all right, moving right along. Community. So when we're talking about burnout, what can cause burnout, and then how to, of course, notice it and cope with it. Community. Who do we work with and around? How supportive and trusting are those relationships? You have to be mindful of that. Even with your coworkers, you got to be mindful of that. You don't know who's there for you and who's not. Which I tell everyone all the time: when you go into work, you're there to do your job, make your pay, go home. You care about the individuals you're doing the work with, and you have to keep your mindset on that. Your coworkers, a lot of times I say, it kind of is what it is, but a lot of times there are things that we have to be mindful of when we're working around other people. We're trusting and getting the support, having those relationships. Um, Taking the time to ask others how their day is going. That is another thing that can be helpful. Spending some sending an email to someone to let them know that you appreciate um, their their presentation, that they put out a real good report and you really like it, or what they did was helpful, or how they helped you with someone was great. And then burnout can be something that we have to look at and realize that it can be contagious. So basically, the level of burnout sometimes, you have to basically, so to elevate the individual's engagement, you must shift the morale of the group. So the morale of the group have to be shifted, because a lot of times, people they're just in a whole nother situation. I've been in positions where that's where people were, and I'll be honest with you, I'm one of those persons that at a certain point I gotta go eventually. So I'm always on the lookout to see, what's available, what's going on. I always tell individuals in any career, just keep your stuff well abreast and get what you have to get, and be transparent, of course, with your employer, and letting them know what you're looking for. And like I always tell individuals, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit, and that should be something that should be communicated and understood. Fairness. When we're talking about fairness, thinking about whether you believe that you're receiving fair, equitable treatment. A lot of times that's a concern for folks. If you feel that there is a lack of fairness that is exacerbating your burnout, that can happen as well. Starting to speak up will help. Sometimes when you're dealing with mismatched values, if your values are high, you have high values that the company does not have, your motivation for the work becomes hard. So you work hard, and everything, you being on top of your job, all that can significantly drop if the motivation is not there. So when you're assessing the elements of burnout, you need to think carefully about how important it is for you to match your values with those of the organization, to make sure that you're on the right track and doing the things that you need to be doing. And sometimes I always say too, taking more engagement in the job and in the position, and seeing what can work from there. um so what to do if you have, if you have burnt out, if you're just burned, if you're in burnout, you're currently burnt out, you have burned out. Okay. So basically, recognizing that you have burnout is often the first step to making a plan for recovery. Care for your mental health is one of the big ones. We start first with that. So a good first step would be tackling burnout and understanding that you definitely need to reach out and seek some therapy. Mental health is a big part of what happens and what goes on when we're talking about burnout. Again, it's not diagnosable, but it is something sometimes, because you start going through a lot of different psychological changes. So, what we do in therapy is really try and focus on how to refill the tank. So I always tell individuals, I use my same little saying that you're the teapot. And if you're just walking around and filling teacups all day without going back and refilling and getting some more, in your teacup, in your teapot, then you're going to be a dry teapot by the end of the day. And everybody else is going to be walking around, filled, but you're dried out. You know what I mean? So you have to refill your tank. Um, Having that safe place to talk with someone who is not a family member or a friend or coworker. That's also, probably seeking out some therapy. A lot of programs have the EAP program where you can speak to someone else, but they're of course within the company. Um, so other things that you can think about is build breaks and professional check-ins and into your schedule. So you have to, make sure you build some breaks into your schedule, getting some time in and time out. I know when I used to work, for a more intensive situation when I had assessments coming in, not maybe back to back, but just coming in for the most part, I would take a walk between my assessments just to make sure that I am, recovering well. Taking breaks is a good solution. That basically helps you start to tackle the burnout, stepping away from the computer, stepping away from whatever the source of stress is, and attending to your own health and well being, exercising, time and energy to move. To work out provides an abundance of health benefits, as well as it helps you to deal with burnout more effectively. We're talking about practicing mindfulness. One way to do this is to take some deep breath. So start doing our deep breathing routines, establishing a daily routine, establishing a healthy diet routine healthy routines for healthy daily routines for things like sleep, diet, and then of course non-work time. These things are critical because you're going to need to have some good things. So if you are dealing with burnout, these are some great places to start creating and maintain boundaries. Start to build and enforce work-life balance or work-life boundaries. And then explore different hobbies, doing different things that make you feel pretty good. Um, so start a self-care routine. We're talking about starting a self-care routine. There are a lot of things we have to think about. Habits that promote physical and mental health, taking a bubble bath, doing some aromatherapy, prioritizing your sleep schedule. I call it sleep hygiene for the most part. Taking 2 nights a week to get at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep, or 8 to 12 hours, whichever is your max on sleeping. Mine, of course, is about 12 hours, and I feel really revived and good after 2 nights, 1 or 2 nights of 12 hours of sleep. I feel like I'm a million bucks. Another thing to talk about is batch cooking, healthy meals. So doing a meal prep, that's another place to start with self-care. Meditation, maintaining a grateful mindset, just being grateful for different things, and then the positive lifestyle, having some positivity in what life is to bring. Other things we could think about is definitely waking up well rested, getting uninterrupted sleep. Um, and I put that with sleep hygiene, of course. And I tell people, go into the room, turn put the close the blinds, keep the lights down, get yourself ready for a real good night's sleep. And that could happen after a bubble bath where you just kind of set the scene. You start at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and you're down till 7 to 8 the next morning, and that's just, something to help get uninterrupted sleep. Daily exercise, getting daily exercise, whether it's a walk, different things like that. Nourishing food should be pretty much on your menu daily. Planning nourishing meals is a proactive way to take care of yourself. I usually tell people, getting more into your food intake is always something that's important to do. I'm currently doing more of a protein intake, and I really build up on my protein, especially when I know that I'm dropping pounds. I try to make sure I build up on my protein a little bit more because I don't want to drop a whole lot of muscle. I want to drop more fat. So that's one of the things that I do on a daily basis, is changing my nourishment and adding uh, more proteins to my diet. Take time for downtime, take a mental health break, have some time to yourself. Talk about it, address your emotional well-being. So you have to definitely be on point with doing things like that. And you just have to be at a point where you are willing to take care of yourself. So that's our pretty much presentation on talking about burnout and how to kind of overcome burnout. So I'm glad you were able to stop in and take a listen to me for this short presentation. But this again is one of our presentations. I like to give these type of presentations for supervision purposes, just being able to present to a group of individuals that are having some difficulties or find out there are some difficulties in different areas. But this is just really bringing the awareness into place and allowing people to be able to understand what burnout is, what can cause burnout, and then some of the things that you can do to help to, face burnout head on, and be a good person to yourself, and make sure you're taking care of yourself. So, again, as always, thank you so much for stopping in and joining us for this presentation. And I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, night, when you met me for this particular presentation. Thanks so much. Again, this is Dr. Latasha McElwain.